Welcome to We Believe, a consideration of religious beliefs and God's Word, examined in conversation by James F. Walsh, an attorney and Roman Catholic deacon, and Dr. Richard Shriver, United Methodist minister and professor of theology. Each discussion embraces carefully chosen subjects, selected in an effort to deepen your religious awareness, in the sincere hope that We Believe will help provide a bridge of understanding among all the children of God.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to We Believe. We've been having some excellent discussions here over the last sessions on the virtues. We have John Basio, who's especially expert on virtues, I would say, anyway. He tells us he is. But our special guest there, aside from John, is Dr. Richard Shriver and Kim Bollinger. I have trouble with that name, but I got it right that time,
yes,
Kim?
You did.
So, can you take it away, John? Tell us all about what is the subject this time?
This time is temperance, the virtue of temperance. So, in the past, this will be the fourth show of a series of 4 on the Cardinal Virtues, which are prudence, justice, courage or fortitude, and temperance. And just to review for you who have not been, may not have seen the previous programs, I'll ask our group here to define what those virtues are. Jim, could you start? What is prudence?
Prudence is thinking about the results of your act. If I do this, what's going to happen? Not just do it and say, well, whatever will happen, be all right.
That's a prosecuting lawyer's definition.
Yeah, that's right. It's being conscious that all your acts have consequences, and so what's going to happen? Think about it.
Yep.
That's what I'm saying.
Making the right decision.
Making the right decision.
Richard, the justice was the second virtue.
And fairness is how I would define justice, but it's the way in which we realize that everyone should get fair treatment as they are due.
Sure. Good, thank you. Kim, the other virtue is courage or fortitude. What is
courage is spiritual strength. It's the strength that you need to live out your vocation.
I really like that definition.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can have courage without that. Yeah.
Without what? The spiritual strength? Yes. Yes.
Seems true.
So we're talking about the virtues, which are really good habits. These are things that make us successful. And we will be watching then a video that deals with the virtue of temperance, which is a virtue of moderation and self-control. You need to see that is one of those things that without self-control, our life is out of order. We just go everywhere. So let's watch the video, and then we will get back together and discuss what we have seen.
When I was 12 or 13 years old, my mother kept this on the dining room buffet with wine in it. And I would sneak in and take it like this and pour it. I wouldn't fill it clear for about half, and then I'd fill this back up with water, so she didn't know I was taking it. That's how I got started drinking.
We all have desires. We desire what is appealing to our senses. Desire is good. But when we indulge our desires without limits, we become stuck. And what is good becomes a problem.
Started in the high school. That's when I really started drinking. I was drinking every day. Liquor and beer and anything I get my hands on. From then on, it progressed to where it was affecting my family and my finances and my health. It was something that I couldn't control. Although I was working, we didn't have any money. I'd go buy a bottle of booze when the kids needed a new pair of shoes. And finally it got to the point where she said, well, it's either me or the bottle. You got your choice. We got involved with the AA program. I quit June 11th of 1968, and I've been sober for 47 years.
The Catechism teaches us that temperance moderates the attraction of the pleasures of the senses and provides balance in the use of created goods. Moderation is something we practice every day in our life in order to be safe and healthy. What desires do you find yourself controlling most often during your day?
Food is one of my challenges.
Sometimes I feel lazy to do exercise.
Try to control myself and stay focused on my work.
What I try to control most often is the running of my mouth.
Control my social media usage.
I do struggle with my Lay's potato chips.
When I was a pre-teenager, I had a friend down the street who invited me to hang out with him one day. We were playing around, and he invited me in the house. He said, "Come upstairs, I want to show you something." We ended up in the master bedroom, and under the bed, he's like, "Check this out." And he pulled out these magazines. And, you know, I'm an 11-year-old kid, and I've never seen this before. I mean, it's Playboy, and there are women in here that don't have any clothes on. I'm like, okay, it was overwhelming, but there was something in me that went, wow. And there was also another piece of me that went, well, if his parents have this in their house, well, maybe my parents do. And I don't know why I made that association, but I did. And so I went home. I don't know if it was that day, but it was very short afterwards that I started looking around my parents' bedroom. And lo and behold, there it was. And that's how I got started with pornography.
One expression of the virtue of temperance is the practice of chastity.
Faithfulness comes to mind when I think of chastity, being faithful to my wife.
Even emotionally with another person. I was thinking about a situation that happened many years ago with us. The coworker kind of was confiding in me, and I think that I got emotionally involved with this person.
Christian spouses practice chastity when they submit their sexual desires to the rule of self-giving love.
Over the last couple of years, my thoughts on chastity have really evolved.
Chastity is respecting each other's body.
I just felt a lot of times that being a man, it was just part of life to look at women in an objectified way.
The practice of chastity in marriage requires self-control.
Treat her not as an object, but as someone that I love and cherish, and respect her needs and to respect her times.
How do you teach the virtue of chastity to your children?
With our son, we said to him, be respectful, don't do anything that they don't like to anybody else do to his mother or to his sister.
And even with my grandchildren today, things that are out there, watching television, watching movies, there's so many things out there that I don't feel that's acceptable, so we'll talk about them.
Dressing appropriately for the occasion. You can wear a bathing suit to the beach. You don't wear that to a party.
And we talk about songs and why certain songs are not appropriate. And they've learned to actually tell us that we need to change the station because they know those songs.
Pornography is a serious threat to chastity. Pornography encourages viewers to treat each other as objects used to satisfy one's sexual desires. Pornography destroys marriages.
When your spouse or your significant other looks at pornography, oftentimes women react that they feel like they're being cheated on, that they are literally choosing to go look at these naked women because they don't want me.
What happened with my pornography is that it became my favorite way to medicate whatever emotion I was having. It would be my outlet for numbing.
I realized one day that this addiction literally had a physical and spiritual hold of him, and that instead of allowing it to be something between me and him when it would come up and I'd be mad at him, I changed my perspective and I came along beside him and I put it in front of us. And I said, okay, we're gonna fight this thing together and we're gonna find victory in this together.
It was all about making you happy first, but when I realized, wait a second, I want to have a better relationship with God. I want to be a better man. I want to be a better husband. I want to be a better father. I don't want to pass this on to my son. How do I do that? Well, it's not just not looking at something. It's about knowing who I am in Christ. It's about learning how to communicate.
So for us, one of the first things we had to do is get him plugged in somewhere. What worked well for you was Celebrate Recovery, which is a great venue. It's a Christian-based organization in a lot of churches. Just having men walking beside you, being able to hold you accountable, to encourage you, to start give you the skills to how to deal with stuff. And for me to also have women to walk with, to talk with. But walking away had to not be an option. It had to be us changing our perspective of what the problem was. The problem was not you. It was something that had a hold of you.
We all have desires. Where do you find the strength to fight the temptation?
We avoid temptation by really finding a group of friends that have like interests and are very similar to us.
I use prayer and sacraments as the way that I fight temptations.
St. Jude was a patron of hopeless cases and things all despaired of, and that was me. So St. Jude has been my patron saint ever since then, and I pray to St. Jude every day.
It's still a daily surrender to God for me. You know, I am much, much, much better than I have been before. But I'm still blocking my eyes. I'm still watching what I look at. I'm still paying attention to things on television and going, maybe I shouldn't be watching that. Maybe I need to turn my eyes away from the lady jogging down the street. I don't want something to cause something to go off in me that I don't want to go off. I need God. I need to lean on Him daily.
In this series of videos, we reflected on the cardinal virtues: prudence, justice, courage, and temperance. These are the virtues that form our character. They are the good qualities that people will remember about us. Growth in virtue is attained through the help of God's grace. Teach your children the virtues, the good habits, of acting prudently, of honoring all their obligations and commitments, of being strong and doing what is right, and of enjoying all things with moderation and self-control. Most of all, teach your children to trust God, who is always present and ready to help us. When you do this, you leave behind a legacy you can be proud of, because you have passed on to your next generation the keys to wisdom, the path to a successful life. As the Bible says, moderation and prudence, righteousness and fortitude, nothing in life is more useful than these.
Welcome back. You have just seen a video on the virtue of temperance. And we have defined temperance as the virtue of moderation and self-control. And so I'm wondering, what did you think? Do you have any reaction to the video?
I particularly liked the couple where the husband said I had to moderate my tongue and what I say, because I find myself in that position so often where I try not to say the wrong thing, and then the wrong thing just pops out, and then I have to apologize for it. That is it rings true to me. It's very true.
Thank you. Thank you. Richard, what came to mind?
Well, I was interested that a big portion of the video was on pornography. I don't know that I would have put it in the same category of temperance as drugs, alcohol, addictions to food, which probably is the closest I've got.
The pornography becomes an addiction.
Yeah. And I thought, that sort of interested me. The word temperance does mean what you're saying, moderation, temperate.
Mm-hmm.
Temperate climate is one that's pleasant, and not too hot, not too cold. It's interesting to me, though, in the history of the Protestant church, most Protestant churches, the word temperance during the 19th century came to really mean abstinence.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being asked to speak to the British Women's Temperance Association, which was very definitely an abstinence association. And I suggested that maybe we needed to think more about the things that cause people to drink, and it was alcohol.
Of course, it was focused on alcohol, the whole thing.
How were you received?
They didn't like it. I was not asked to return.
Jim, what were some thoughts?
Well, what came across to me was the notion, it struck a true note, that temperance, moderation, that's where happiness lays. And the other extreme might be thrilling, but in the end, it's not happy. It's a sad situation. And moderation and temperance, the middle ground, so to speak, is the path to true happiness, but peace of mind, so to speak.
Right. So the definition of temperance assumes that we all have desires, and desires are not by themselves are not bad.
Yeah.
They have to be
controlled.
Controlled.
Yeah.
We have to keep control of our own impulses, our desires.
Kim has to control her tongue.
Right. And that's true.
And what do you have to control, Jim?
Everything. Well, you name it, I need to control it.
But if you think about it, it's something that daily we have to kind of monitor ourselves.
Well, on the issue of pornography, if you think about it, and I think we all need to, in this age when you're bombarded with pornography,
especially for youth,
really, that the thing that's wrong is when another person becomes an object instead of a personality.
Yes.
And I think our society is very guilty of that.
Yeah, let me say something about that, because one of the reasons I put pornography here is because it is a problem today. But secondly, the bishops of the United States, the Catholic bishops, have come up with a document actually this past November, in 2015, to define the problem, and to try to provide some resources for people who are in difficulty. The document is called "Creating Me a Clean Heart," "Creating Me a Clean Heart," a pastoral response to pornography. Wow. And one of the things that the point that are made in that document, anybody can find it going to the website of the United States Bishop, which is usccb.org. One of the points that is made is pornography not only is addictive, which is bad, but secondly, it it helps you. It leads you to look at somebody as an object. But it also not only does that, but it also affects the marriage relationship if you are married, because then you begin to look at your spouse in the same context, and therefore the meaning of love changes. It's being corrupted by the perception that you have in pornography. And what is very concerning is the attitude of young people today. There is a document or a research that I found that says that 66% of young men and 48% of young women, and this is high school age, before college, say that viewing pornography is an acceptable way to express one's sexuality. So it's okay. And it's not okay. It is a problem. What do you think?
It's really a problem when you don't know it's a problem.
You're right.
You know?
And another side of the problem is, what does it do to the young women who are being photographed?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've wondered a lot about that, because you know, it's bound to affect their lives, and how do they deal? How do their parents deal with it?
Sure,
you know?
Sure.
Well.
Yeah, and the rest of their life is affected by that, because they will always be there on a video. Jim, you said you had a joke.
Well, we're talking about temperance and whatever. We shouldn't get through this one thing without at least a little humor, maybe. And there are lots of stories about drunks and so forth. The one that I heard the other day, this guy's coming home from work, and he remembers it.
Was he an Irishman?
It probably was an Irishman, yeah. And he remembered it's his wedding anniversary, and he needs to get a present for his wife, and he remembers that she's always wanted a grandfather clock. You know, those tall grandfather clocks. And so he's passing the store, he sees one in there just exactly what she wants. So he goes in, he buys the clock. He said, "I'd like to have it delivered today." "I'm sorry, sir, our delivery man has gone home and we'll deliver it tomorrow." "No, I have to have it for tonight, today." He said, "I tell you what, I only live 2 blocks from me. If you have a piece of rope, I'll tie it on my back," see? So he's walking down the street with this grandfather clock on his back, you see. And this drunk wanders up the other way, bumps into him, knocks him down. The grandfather clock's all over the sidewalk. He said, "You stupid drunk, you see what you did?" The drunk looks at him bleary-eyed and said, "What the heck, Mac? Why don't you get a wristwatch like everybody else?" So there you have your one joke.
The humor.
Moderate.
That's the
temperance.
About temperance.
That's your temperance
That's
joke.
a temperance.
Yes.
That's a temperance joke. Well, I want to express my appreciation to all the couples in these videos that have shared their own stories and challenges and courage they had to face.
Did you get them to give these talks? I mean, that's where you...
Sure, I went to their home.
I must congratulate you, because you got some people to really kind of spread their heart and explain their heart.
Sometimes, fortunately, if people know you, they open up and share. But I'm very appreciative for that, because without people willing to share, we wouldn't learn as much as we do. But since this is the last show of the series on virtues, I want to kind of wrap up the series with a review of some of the other virtues that we have covered during this series. We started with prudence. First of all, we started about the fact that these are virtues. They are behaviors that help us become fully who we are as human beings, help us blossom as human beings.
Yeah.
And then we talked about prudence. Again, Jim, prudence, you talk about that is
your acts end in results. You've got to anticipate your free acts. What's the result of your acts? Do the right thing. Thinking about it.
Right.
And the development of wisdom.
Exactly. And that we mentioned there were 3 steps. There is get all the facts, learn all the facts,
judge, and act.
And your options.
That's right.
Find out what is best for you, and then act on it.
Exactly, right.
So that was prudence, and that is something we experience every day. We have to use every day in the decisions we make. And then we talked about justice. Richard, what do you recall about justice? What did
Well, we
say?
talked about it being fairness, and giving everyone their proper due, what they were due. And my suggestion was that that makes sense if we perceive people, all people, as children of God, and therefore, in the sense of all being children of God, as equals. Then parents can understand what their children are due, and their children can understand what the parents are due, and the whole family situation,
right,
where we see each other as equals.
And we do have responsibilities, and in exercising our responsibilities, we then are fair to other people. And then we talked about courage.
Yeah. Courage being spiritual strength, and to me that's something that you have to have in your marriage. Marriage is hard. It's not a cakewalk for anybody, and if you don't have that solid bedrock of strength, of relying on the Lord, it's even more difficult.
Yes, yes. And then the last one is what we talked about today, temperance, the virtue of self-control and moderation, in the sense that it's good to enjoy things, but there has to be some moderation. There was a passage there from a Hindu proverb, even nectar is poison when taken to excess. So even what is sweet and good, it could be bad for you if you
take it to excess.
I take issue with that. There is no limit on chocolate. You can eat chocolate nonstop.
Well, you don't have any problem when you get on the scale, Ken. I mean, other people will have too much chocolate will show up.
No chocolate. Chocolate's the exception.
That's right.
Sometime, John, I'd like for us to discuss the relationship between abstinence and temperance, because in the Catholic Church, I remember taking some of my Baptist students to a Catholic dinner, and there was a happy hour, and these students walked in, and
they got happy. I'll tell you that.
You're right.
They didn't approach it in moderation or temperance.
They did not practice.
They didn't know how.
Yeah, they didn't practice temperance. So we are. I appreciate your sharing and your thoughts. And again, as I said, I thank all the couples that are participating in this, and I hope that you have learned and enjoyed these presentations. Catholic Media Production, the We Believe show, continues to go on. We cover many materials, many subjects about what we believe in the Catholic Church. So please stay tuned for other shows, and we will see you the next time. Thank you very much.